Features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to what promises to be an incredibly exciting live safari experience, starting with one of Africa's most elusive of the big cats. This is Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
You are live.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome on your own special African safari. My name is James Hendry. Jean-Dre is on camera, and we're broadcasting to you live from the Great Kruger National Park in the northeast corner of sunny, magnificent South Africa. It's 8.5 million acres of contiguous wildlife wilderness, and we are living here on the western fringes on a beautiful reserve called Djuma. Now, I do have to tell you, just before I tell you what's going to happen during the next 2 hours, we want to hear from you. Hashtag Safari Live is how you can get hold of us. You can ask us questions. You can give us your comments. Tell us what you think of Africa. Ask your questions about the animals that you're going to see. Now, this over here is the safari tent. It is laboratory, it is museum, it is, well, they're full of interesting things that we will show you during the course of the drive. You've already met Jamie Patterson, the ultimately elegant antelope, and her leopard, Tingana, one of our very favorite male leopard figures. And then also you will meet Stefan Winterboer, bald as a baby's bottom, walking across the landscape in his 11-size shoes. That's what I said, on foot in the African wild. Now, you're about to meet the irascible, highly recalcitrant Brent Leo Smith. He is sitting with some lions.
Bit of jokes. Look at a teenager, not sure which way to go with his hair. He's going a bit punk.
Yeah. Well, he's got a very patchy beard. Very patchy legs. He's a teenager.
You heard anything? I haven't.
Now, we are, of course, broadcasting to you live from the African wild. So, while we sort of acquaint ourselves with Brent, he doesn't have communications at the moment. We will sort that out. We'll show you those lines again. I've got a little competition for you to get your hashtagging, twittering fingers going. Now, we have in here a microscope, and I've hidden something very cryptically in here, everybody. I'm just going to put it where you can see it, and then we will show it to you. Oh, dear. Goodness. There we are. Okay, let's have a look at this. Now, I'm going to ask you what you think this is, and then I will show you. Hashtag Safari Live. You can tell us what on earth you think this is underneath the microscope. It is, in fact, I'm not going to give you any clues. It's safe to say that it has scales, sort of has hairs, and it flies about in the night. So hopefully you'll be able to gather what it is during the course of the drive. So hashtag Safari Live, you can tell us what you think that is. Now, we're still trying to re-establish communications with Brent, and while we do that, oh, no, hang on, we have now, bald as a baby's bottom, as I said. No, we can't do that. We're going to stay with me. One or two technical glitches, don't worry about them. We will get on to various other exciting things. The next thing I'm going to show you under the microscope while we get things going is rather an interesting arrangement, actually. What we have here is something called a blister beetle. Now, the blister beetle, everybody, is so called because it makes you blister. That is correct. It produces a horrible chemical called cantharidin, and cantharidin will blister your skin. But the most interesting part of this rather interesting beetle is that its cantharidin used to be used in a sort of legendary aphrodisiac called the Spanish fly. And apparently what the cantharidin does if you eat it in small quantities, perish the thought, it irritates the urinary tract, and that's why it was thought of as some sort of aphrodisiac. Now we can look at it quickly underneath the microscope. Look at this astounding thing. Those are its yellow, those are its yellow antennae, which it uses to find its food and find ladies when it so wishes to do so. And I'll just move it slowly along, and I'll show you the wings. Gorgeous scales on the wings. Now, anything out here, everybody, it's got hairs as well. Anything out here that is black and yellow or red and orange, anything with a combination of any of those colors, everybody, is toxic. It is to be avoided. It is not to be put in the mouth. Now, that's enough of the blister beetle. Let's head across to Brent Leo Smith and find out if he can hear us and you can hear him with those magnificent lions.
Welcome to a very sunny day here in the middle African bush, and look at that 1,000-yard stare of a young male lion. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and I've got my good friend Brian Joubert and his bearded wonder thumb on camera with me today. Now, sometimes Brent and Brian, when they're together, they are known as the Killer Bees. Now, we're hoping our Killer Bee magic works wonders for you today. Now, we've got a young male lion here, lying here. There's the rest of the pride just behind us, and we saw some warthogs. Now, you never know what's going to happen. We're 100% live in the African bush. Those warthogs might meander into towards those sleeping lions, or the lions could sleep and the warthogs could meander past. We don't know what's going to happen. That's the wonderful thing about being live. And remember, if you want to get hold of us, ask us any questions about these magnificent creatures. Use the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter. Let's go have a closer look at this lion. So there he is, you can see he's a young male. He's just over 2 years old, and the reason I know this is just by, he's a tired male as well. It's very hot today, and just under 100 Fahrenheit, 95. Now you can see his mane hasn't developed into a wonderfully long flowing mane just like mine yet. And you can see he's almost got a mohawk. There we go, he's going to show it to you. Like most teenagers, which that's what he is in the lion world, he hasn't quite decided which style he's going to go with. Of course, I'm just joking. So he's still reliant quite heavily on his mom and his pride. So when he gets to about 3 years old is when he'll be pushed off. Now, he is a member of the Tsalala Pride. Now, this is a pride of lions I've been lucky enough to spend many hours with over the last 10 years. So they don't normally come up into our traverse area, so it's always a really big treat to see this particular pride of lions. I spent a lot of time with them about 10 years ago, so I actually knew his grandmother. It's a very fascinating story about these lions, which I'm going to go into in a bit more depth as we sit here this afternoon. As you can see, he's found a nice shady spot, and he's trying to chase some flies away. And he's right on the edge of a nice big open area, which is actually an airstrip where people on safari would land to come visit this African wonderland. And not too far away, he's got a lovely, well, for us not so lovely, but for him incredibly lovely mud puddle that he's been drinking out of. You can just make it through the trees. There we go, you can see the water there. And so he's got everything he needs at the moment. And we can also have a look. He's got quite a nice big belly, so he's not too hungry. But we've got a special welcome to the Nat.Geo crew sitting in the fishbowl. Absolutely amazing. Oh, he's up. Sorry, Nat.Geo, we're going to stick with the lion. Oh, he's seen something. What's he seen? That's what happens when it's live. You never know what's going to happen next. Oh, whatever's happened, he's slowed down. But it's unusual to see an awesome animal like this moving in this 95-degree heat. He's probably heading back towards where the rest of the pride are, sleeping in the shade. I can see some heads. Well, let's stick with him while he moves. So he looks like he's heading back towards the rest of the pride. And as I said, quite often in this heat, it's very unusual to see them. While we do that, let's go meet Stef, who's a very brave man wandering about on foot.
Hello, and welcome to the bushwalk part of today's safari. My name is Stefan Winterboer, and on camera today we have David. Now, I'm a wilderness trail guide, and that means that for the last 17 or 18 years or so, I've been taking people, much like yourselves, on safari, on foot, in Africa's last wilderness refuges, the Kruger National Park being one of them for the last long time. And today, what I'm hoping to show you is a whole bunch of things that you're not likely to see from the safari car, or at least not from at least the distance that you are with those lion and with those leopard. In any case. Alright, what really gets me going are the smaller things, insects in particular, and all the creepy crawlies, hairies and scaries as well. Now, since we were just with those lions with Brent, I've got a question for you. Don't forget that it is an interactive show, this, so you're welcome to forward your answers to the hashtag Safari Live, and let's see if you can get this question right. If you were walking with me like we're going to be over the next couple of hours,
now, again, like I say, especially on foot, of course, Stefan is absolutely fine. Nothing has run him over. He's just frozen slightly. He will be back animated very shortly. Now, the one thing I haven't introduced you yet to is my favourite friend, Ronald the Rover. Have a look here. Now, there is Ronald's view, everybody. Now, it might look to you like that's a rather strange camera angle, but behold, Ronald is moving. He is a little robot that I'm sort of controlling from the tent, and with any luck, he will find some friends today. Now, he hasn't had much luck finding friends of late. This is because we've had some wonderful rains, which means that the nyala and elephants and hippo that have come down to this waterhole throughout the course of what was a horrendous drought that we've been having, they used to make friends with him, but now you can see that he's lonely. Anyway, he's going to wait here by the water, and you can see there where he's sitting. There he is. He's got on his Sunday best for you, even though it's Thursday. I told him about that. He said, I don't care. I'm going to look my best for those people at National Geographic. Well, there we are. That is Ronald, and he is looking and seeing what's going on there. Now, you've met Tingana, one of our favourite leopard characters. There are two others we're going to introduce to you now in this little clip. Take a look.
3 magnificent leopards call our piece of wilderness home. Three magnificent leopards call our piece of wilderness home. 3 magnificent leopards.
Oh, there we go. We were trying to give you a little bit of background into the leopards of this area. I think that something went a little bit wrong, but that's okay. Bringing you a live safari from the middle of the African bush sometimes comes with its complications. My name is Jamie, because I haven't had a chance to introduce myself, and this afternoon it is my privilege to have VM on camera with me. He is the one responsible for bringing you these incredible images. And it's my pleasure, for those of you that are new to our live safaris, to introduce you to an incredible male leopard known as Tingana. And let's have a look at him here. As you can see, he's taken me on an interesting journey into the trees, so you may or may notice that I have a tree bashing me on the head every now and again. And that's the joys of these live safaris, is we just never know exactly what to expect. These animals are 100% wild. They come and go as they please, and as a result, sometimes things are a little bit unexpected. There we go. Hello, boy. I was so hoping that we were going to be able to see his beautiful face. Now, this, as I said, is a Tingana, and he is the dominant male leopard of this area, and one of the leopard characters that we have come to know and love extremely well. He's got a massive, massive neck. He is, in fact, one of the biggest male leopards that we see out here. And he moves through an absolutely enormous territory that covers several different female leopards' territories. And he is absolutely gorgeous. Just look at those eyes. I've had the privilege of getting to know Tingana over the last year and a half, and I've spent a great deal of time in enjoying the time with him. Up he gets. And it is an absolutely wonderful thing to get to know the individual leopards of this area, and to get to know their individual personalities and watch the way that they move, watch the areas that they move about in, and enjoy the presence of their company. The last time, or one of the last times I saw Tingana, he had an incredibly narrow escape from one of the lionesses of this area on Djuma. Let's just go and have another look at him. He managed to just get away from a lioness. He was wandering around, he was hunting quite happily. And it was a time when Tingana actually went through quite a bad condition. He was relatively thin, and that's typical of a dominant male leopard out here. They do go through swings and roundabouts of success and triumphs, and then also moments when they haven't been as successful in their hunting and perhaps distracted by the attention of the females. And he wasn't looking particularly good. He was out clearly looking for a meal, and a lioness snuck up and chased him up a marula tree. He only just escaped. And I remember at that moment realizing just how attached I had become to this particular leopard, because that moment of sheer terror that seized my heart as he dashed away and he just escaped her. Luckily, he escaped alive and well, and he is absolutely exhausted. With the sistering sun, it is an incredibly hot day. It is 35 degrees at the moment, which is 95 in Fahrenheit, which means that a lot of our animals are enjoying the shade, or else thirsty animals. I think it's time the other big cat, who apparently is quenching its thirst.
Now, this is what I mean, it's completely live. We did not know this lion was here. We were sitting with the other three, and all of a sudden, another young male, one of the brothers of the one we've seen, has just arrived. Now, I'm really hoping his famous lioness, and she's missing her tail completely. Now, as he walks, we're going to see that there is a game drive vehicle there. We're going to just try to go around them. So there are people out here enjoying the safari, but they've got to sit in the 95-degree weather. You get to enjoy it from the comfort of your home. This is the world's largest game drive vehicle. Safari Live on Twitter if you want to ask us any questions about these incredible animals. Here we go. Look at that. As he's having a good drink there. A big welcome to Jeff in DC, who's watching this live. And Jeff would like to know, how old are lions before they leave their mothers and natal pride? Well, Jeff, there's never any set rules out in the African bush. It completely depends on the individual and the circumstances. Normally between 2.5 and 3 years old, although we've been lucky enough to witness a young male who hung around till he was about 3.5, nearly 4. So every circumstance is different. Every pride dynamic is different. And one of the easiest ways to get in trouble into the bush is to work in definite facts, because the bush teaches you that, well, we wrote the books, the lions didn't read them, so they don't have to listen to them. And you can see there that mane is starting to develop. He's only going to really have a full mane by the time he's 6 years old. Now, male lions will only challenge for territory when they are 6 years old, or 5 to 6 years old, and till then they spend that 3-year period after they leave mom and their natal pride, and before taking over their own area as nomadic males, and they can move as far as 100 miles away from their natal territory. So what happens, they become nomadic, they move into an area, they get chased by the next set of male lions, and get then chased by the next set of male lions. And this is lions' way of making sure they don't inbreed. So by being chased away from their parents' area, it's a way to make sure that inbreeding doesn't occur. Now, it is absolutely sweltering, and we are incredibly lucky. It's not that often that we see lions moving around in 95-degree weather. So it's absolutely scorching out here today. Now, the reason I'm choosing to follow him, because I know there's a lioness and 2 young males there, but I really want to see the tailless lioness. Now, I knew her as a cub, so she's just over 10 years old, and her mother, strange enough, also didn't have a tail, and the odds of her and her mother not having tails are so minuscule that I really would love to catch up with this pride, who we don't get to spend too much time with. Now, Mr. Lion, watch out for aeroplanes, because as I said, this is an airstrip, and fortunately there's no planes scheduled at the moment. But we are about to go off into a break, and I wonder if these lions have a kill somewhere close by. And if they do, I can see the other lions also getting up in the distance. Don't go anywhere. Come back, grab a cup of coffee quickly, because we could be on our way to see a live lion kill here in the middle of the African bush. Hi guys, and now of course all our wonderful regular viewers are with us. Brian, since we are in an advertisement break, what are we selling today? There we go. The thumb needs toothpaste. The toothpaste knows the best thumb. I mean, the wood and ash ingredients. Come to the thumb for all your toothpaste needs. Okay, so isn't this lovely? We don't get to see the Tsalala Pride very often. And this young male's now heading off there. We're not going to drive across the airstrip. That's a very silly thing to do with lots of aeroplanes and whatnot about. I'm just trying to go see a little bit further if there's any other, that tailless lioness is lying in the shadows somewhere. Or in the shade. Can you see anything, Brian? Not currently. Now, it did look like the other lions get up on the move. This is not normal behavior. Normally we are Where is he going? Where is he going? Some of the other lions are up on the move. Decision time, Ryan. Which one's... Oh, is he laying down? Well, let's go to the rest of the pride then. I wonder where the tailless female is. Stations. There's one young male lion mobile to the north. Oh, it looks like the lioness is coming for a drink. Station, are you copying me? Look at this. She's going to drink right opposite us. This is going to be exquisite. One single lioness is now at Buff Pan drinking. Okay, isn't this incredible? And we're going to stick with the Tsalalas, see if they don't have a kill somewhere and are moving back towards it. While we do that, let's go see how Commander Bond is doing in the tent.
Right, so we're over here, and I think, Kirsten, are we going to do the quick test? Okay, here we go. We're just going to do a quick test, everybody. I'm not sure if you're going to see it or not. I'm not sure what this means. You will go see it. It's going to be the introduction to one of the Leopard introduction thingies.
Safari Live operates in the Greater Kruger National Park, South Africa.
Look at one of the introductions. Okay, we've got 30 seconds back to TV, everybody. Are you ready, Jean? Does my flower look nice? Good. Is it wilting? Oh, how very sad.
Maybe give it a 180.
180. 20 seconds. How's that? Is it splendid? Good. 10 seconds. Oh, only 5 seconds. Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to your live safari. Of course, my name is James Henry. You've met Jamie. She's with the leopard. Brent is with the lions, and Stef is hopefully unfrozen soon, walking around finding things. Please talk to us. #Safari Live on Twitter. That's the best way to get hold of us. This is a very beautiful little flower called Zinnia peruviana, and unsurprisingly, with a name like that, it isn't from here. It is from Peru, which means that it shouldn't really be here, so we shall drop it to the floor and stomp upon it. Good. Now, over here, we've got a map of our traversing area. This is about 10,000 acres or so, and I am a fantastic artist, and so I thought it would be really remiss of me to deprive you of my spectacular art. 10,000 acres, and this is Djuma. Arathusa is where the lions are. Here is the airstrip. That's where they are. A very nice sort of out of Africa aeroplane that's been drawn there. That there, of course, is Shadow, who you've yet to meet, but hopefully you'll meet her. There is Karula. She is the great queen of Djuma. I'll just give her a little crown. She is kind of our main leopard character. Shadow is her 9-year-old daughter. And then Tingana is sitting actually over here. We'll make him slightly bigger than the females because he is bigger, isn't he? By about sort of 50% or so. I've decided to give my leopards orange spots today. There we go. He's a beautiful fellow, isn't he, Gendre? Gendre agrees, everybody, that I'm a spectacularly good artist. We'll give him some eyes, this chap. There we go. And perhaps some blood dripping from his mouth there. Lovely. So that's the story there. Now, Tingana has a territory that extends all the way around like this. He's got a massive territory. It encompasses Karulas, it encompasses Shadows, and it encompasses another female called Tandi off to the eastern side. So that's his territory there. And Karula, being a female, she has a territory that's slightly smaller, and hers looks pretty much like this. She goes a little bit up here and around like that. And that's probably, of the 10,000 acres of our traversing, that's probably about 3,000 acres or so. And then Shadow, her daughter, slightly overlapping territory, and that's pretty much her territory there. So hopefully we've got a good chance to see both of those leopards. You're ready with the sort of great prince of cats, so let's head back to him immediately.
So now you've had a chance to get a better idea of how the leopard territories all work, and at the same time, apparently you've had a chance to sample James's artistic ability, which by all accounts is quite unique. We are sitting right now live with one of the leopards that James has just mentioned. My name is Jamie, and we are right on the boundary of Djuma Private Game Reserve, and right here, right now in South Africa, we are sitting with this incredible leopard. And because it is live, and because we're sitting here and we're having this conversation, it means that you can send through your questions, and you can do that on #Safari Live on Twitter. So please do, if you have any burning questions you've always wanted to know about the leopards, the lions, or any other things of the wildlife of this area, please do send through your questions. In a second, we're going to take a bit of a closer look at the amazing Tingana, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him. Now, the name Tingana means shy, or the shy one, and actually not too much is known about this particular leopard until the day that he stepped foot in the Sabi sand a good few years ago. And the reason he is called a Tingana, which is, by the way, spelled Tingana, the reason he is called a Tingana is apparently when he first arrived in this area, he was very, very shy. Over the course of several years, and he's had many vehicles moving around him, he's had lots and lots of professional and ethical guiding, people tracking him and finding him and following his story, he's become accustomed to vehicles, and he no longer sees us as any sort of a threat. So the name Tingana actually no longer really applies, and in fact the only time Tingana is ever shy is if you encounter him on foot. And a very warm welcome to Wilson, and thank you so much for sending through your question. Now, Wilson, you've got a question on another spotted cat. You want to know if the jaguars of South America are related in any way to the leopards of South Africa, and yes, they absolutely are. And in fact, for those of you who are familiar with the sort of taxonomic breakdown of the different animals, they are part of the same genus. So they are essentially, South American jaguars are essentially, in a way, they're basically basically the South American equivalent of leopards, although slightly stockier and stronger with slightly broad faces. And of course they are the apex predators there, which our leopards are not. But they are all part of the Panthera genus. So the Panthera genus, the big roaring cats, includes the tiger, the leopards, the jaguars, the lions, and the other large cats of that particular genus. The only big cat that we get out here, and we do see them occasionally, the only big cat we get out here that is not part of the same genus is the cheetah, which is a completely separate species all of its own. Yes, absolutely. And then following on from that, of course, a panther is, in South America, it's a melanistic form of the jaguar. Here in South Africa and India and other parts of the world, a panther is a melanistic form of leopard, so it's essentially a black leopard. It's not a separate species at all. Now, you will have seen other vehicles moving around in this area, and that's because although we are in a totally wild wilderness area, there are tourists that come through and are guided by professional field guides, and of course, that in turn brings in money, which then in turn is used in the conservation and protection of these species. So these are tourists coming to take photographs of these animals only, and it does actually, in a way, ensure the safety and the future of these beautiful creatures. And you can see he is more than perfectly content to lie up in the shade, although the shade is shifting. And I have a suspicion that any moment now, Tingana might just get up and move. He's under the heat of the blazing sun, and hopefully he decides to come a little bit closer. I've had shared moments with Tingana where he has walked right up past the side of the vehicle, so close that at times I've almost wondered if his tail's going to brush against my bull bar or against my door. And occasionally he's even come and lain in the shade that the vehicle provides. So hopefully he decides to do that this afternoon, and perhaps even give us another glimpse into his beautiful eyes. Speaking about members of the Panthera genus and the different ones that we see, of course, Brent is with those incredible Tsalala Pride. I think let's head about 1.5 kilometers south of where I am and go and see what he's looking at.
Now, 1 or 2 technical glitches. Brent is at the far end, of course, of our traversing area, and so that's why he's struggling to hear you, but at least you saw that lion panting away. It is very hot indeed. Now, what I wanted to show you, I've lost it, Chandra. Come on, get out of the way, man. Here we go, it's over here. It is a skull of a predatory cat. Snap, snap. Now, you can imagine that would be a very painful thing indeed, were those canines to go biting into you. This is, in fact, a female leopard, and a fully grown female leopard, I would say, from the condition of her teeth, that she popped her clogs, as it were, somewhere around her 10th year. So she definitely wasn't as old as she could have been. The oldest leopard in this area was 18 years, and when she died, I saw her. She had teeth completely blunt. They were sort of filed down to around that point over there. And so this one, probably a leopardess of about 10 years old or so. Now, the male, you can see how big this fellow is, or this lady is, if you like. She's probably, what, I'd say about, let's say, 10 inches across. The male is probably 1/3 again the size, much wider, much greater space here for those huge muscular jaws, but the dentition almost exactly the same. Now, what is quite interesting also is what these leopards eat. And there are many things on this sort of, well, shall we say, shelf of death, if you like, behind us. That's probably a very unkind way to describe it. But there are many things here that she would eat. But one of them that she's quite scared of, and I just think this is the most wonderful thing, is a baboon skull. Now, this is a huge male baboon. Look at him. A big baboon weighs about 40 kilograms, which is about 90 pounds or so. So he's not that much smaller, at least not that much bigger than the female leopard. But a female leopard, let's just compare the size of these teeth. Look at that. You can see that this leopardess has got much smaller teeth than this baboon, and the baboon doesn't use his teeth so much for killing things as he does for defense. He's got dentition, other than these great big teeth, that is much more reminiscent of our own human dentition. Very nice. Gendre doesn't have teeth that look like that, do you, Gendre? No, good. Excellent. Now, we have had the quiz, of course, of... Where is it? Oh, Violet, Melinda and Elaine, you all say that you all got my quiz correct, which makes me feel rather stupid. I'm rather sad that you all got it correct, but well done. Here it is. There is the moth, a beautiful hawk moth, everybody. And that's what was under the microscope when we saw it. And what I would like you to see is his eyes. See the eyes there? I just think they're fantastic. And although he's called a hawk moth, he's it was quite a fearsome sort of a name for him. He's not actually a predator at all. He is an eater and devourer of nectar. So when the flowers start to come out, as they have at this time of the year, this is the kind of thing that they go after and eat, which is marvelous. Now, Stef is out on bushwalk. I'm hoping that he's completely unfrozen, walking freely. Let's go and find out from him. Everybody, it's not always like this. I think that now we should have a look at something outside. Come, Jean-Andre, let us get out of here. I know you get cabin fever when you're tucked up inside. Jean-Andre, by the way, everybody, has just had bilharzia, a dreadful disease, of course, brought about by the fact that he has the lifestyle of an errant caveman. That is why he got bilharzia, of course. He was swimming in some dirty water. He seems to be okay now. If the camera does suddenly drop to the ground, you'll know why. There we are. Now, what we have here is a rather spectacular giraffe's leg. Now, this giraffe's leg, of course, is taller than me. I am not a very large man. I'm about 5 feet and 8 inches tall, which, of course, is not very big at all. But if we added the hoof, it would be about that tall. And then if we added, stand by there, Jean-Andre, if we added his humerus, which would go into the bone something like that, that's how tall the top of his shoulder would be. And then his neck, of course, is another good sort of 7 feet up. So all in all, he's about 4.5 meters tall, which is a good 15 feet. So that's an incredibly tall animal. And I just think that the way these bones fit together is astounding. He carries most of his mass, of course, on this very joint here, the joint between the humerus, the radius, and the ulna. So this is like your forearm. Right, Jamie seems to be completely unfrozen, completely in communication with Tingana, who is fast asleep. Let's go and find out how things are going there.
By the sounds of things, we have been completely fortunate this afternoon, and we are, as James said, still with the amazing, massive male leopard that we started off our live safari adventure with. So we're still with Tingana, and sometimes in the African bush, playing the patience game is a very, very important thing. On these live safaris, I have had all kinds of unexpected things happen, from wild dogs suddenly dashing in to elephants chasing predators around. You just never know what to expect. But while Tingana is snoozing gently, or I spoke too soon, heads up and back down again. While Tingana is snoozing gently, what I would really love to hear from you, since this is a two-way conversation in a way, because we do these live drives from the middle of the African bush and they are happening right here, I would like for you, if you will, to please send through a one-word tweet. Since you've seen lions with Brent, you've seen a leopard with myself, I would love to hear how the big cats of Africa make you feel. Perhaps you find them awe-inspiring. Perhaps you find them breathtaking. You can send through just one word. We're only looking for one word. It's a wonderful way of making sure we narrow down exactly what it is that we love so much about them. You can send that through on #SafariLive on Twitter. And while you think about that, we're going to be sitting watching Tingana and just wondering what his plans are next. I haven't had a chance to see him stand up just yet. I'm wondering, I just want to be able to see whether or not he looks as though he's in need of a good meal. You might even, before the end of this live safari, you might even get to hear him roar. Now that is a sound that I can only describe as a bow saw sawing through wood, and that's exactly how we describe it. It is a leopard sawing. I don't think I do a terribly good impression of it, but hopefully Tingana will give you his rendition of his incredible roar. Stay tuned after the break to find out what this massive leopard has to offer us. And for those of you watching on the internet, you, however, don't have to miss any of the enormous action. Look, he just flicked an ear. The television audiences all missed out on that for him. They must be devastated. I'm just going to take a quick sip of water while I have the opportunity, because as we mentioned earlier, it's quite warm this afternoon. And my shady spot has moved, as has Tingana's actually, and I think any moment now he's going to be up and moving into some shade. The one thing that we're really fortunate about, of course, because Tingana is currently on Simbambili, the one thing that we are very, very fortunate about is the fact that if he does move, chances are he's going to stay on the eastern side of this termite mound. Thank goodness that's where the shade is. Otherwise, there's a good chance he could sneak round onto the western side, and that would be devastating because, well, actually it wouldn't be that devastating. We've had a chance to spend some time with him. We can go off and search and other exciting things, have a chance to see them. What are your plans, Tingana? Whenever I see Tingana on a day like today, I always think back to that sighting where we'd gone out late in the afternoon. I think it was so hot that the cameras kept shutting down. We went out late, and I have no idea why Scott was on camera. Scott Dyson was on camera with me, as he was once or twice in my time at Wild Earth, which was always a thoroughly entertaining experience because, of course, while Scott's camera work was good, it's not quite exactly the same as our professional cameraman. And Scotty very kindly opted to come on camera with me, and we had many exciting sightings. We had Quintile once mating with Tingana, we had a black mamba, but this particular afternoon we were both positively boiling, and we went driving along and we were just commenting on the fact that the chances were we were going to see absolutely nothing. And there was Tingana. As I drove around the corner, he was about, I would guess and say, about a meter from my car. It was when there was still some foliage around to hide him. He was so incredibly close to me, I nearly jumped out of my skin. Scott didn't see him at all until I shouted an exclamation, at which point he then realized there was a massive male leopard next to us. And we proceeded that whole afternoon to follow him. I remember exactly when it was as well, because Karula's cubs had just been born. In fact, it might even have been the 3rd of February, now that I think about it. It might even have been the day after. Yes, that's exactly when it was. Well, I'm sure you're all thrilled and excited to hear that Brent has been batting off gremlins left, right and centre, and it seems as though he has actually managed to defeat them. So let's head across so that we can have another look at those incredible Tsalalas.
And the Tsalalas are really treating us there. It's so hot that they're getting up and moving every couple of minutes. Now, the one young male's just disappeared off, and he's not far away. I was hoping he was going towards the tailless lioness, but he isn't. He's just lying under a guarri bush. So we're going to stick with these, and I can't understand. They seem to be up and down. They're quite distracted. It could be because they might have heard the Birmingham's roaring. It could be that the Matimbas are giving them problems from the south. You never know what's going to happen next, even on a swelteringly warm day like this. I think these boys are going to be absolutely magnificent when they're older. I think, if I remember correctly, they are Majingalan progeny. Oh, he's tired. Okay, let's just move a little bit further forward. And for once, the lions are being quite kind to us, and they've chosen a big enough patch of shade for us to reside in as well. Has he spotted something? Can't see anything behind us. There was some warthog around earlier. I think his head's just up because he's hot. Okay, we're about to jump back on board with the TV audience, but it's always good to have all of you with us all the time. Welcome back, everyone. We do apologize. We've been having some comms issues, but we are live in the middle of Africa, so sometimes that does happen, but it's all sorted, and I'm so ecstatic to be back with you. Now, we're still with these lions. I was telling you about that young male that was moving off. I was hoping he was going to find the oldest lioness than Tsalala Pride, the one who hasn't got a tail. Unfortunately, he didn't. He just flopped down and went to snooze under a bush. So we came back to these three, and they've got up and moved. Now, it's very interesting. As I said, it's unusual for lions to be too mobile in this 95-degree heat. They normally snooze constantly. Now, this pride is in a bit of flux at the moment. There's a big coalition of males called the Birmingham Boys to the north, and they're under pressure from another coalition of lions to the south called the Matimbas. So they're sort of trying to avoid all the male lions. Now, the reason the lionesses will keep moving these young males away is because at this age, these young males are still very vulnerable to a big dominant male lion. So she's trying to give them the best start in life. And oh, there we go, a sneezing lion. See? Oh, she's going to stretch. See? Look how supple her back is. Now, of course, they have to be incredibly supple while they hunt. Now, interestingly, she's up and she's heading in the same direction that other young male did earlier. And I really hope that they're going to lead us back to the tailless lioness, or perhaps they even have a carcass, a kill. She's got a nice wobbly fat belly, which means she's eaten 24 hours. Now, I wonder if they just haven't moved from where that kill is to come enjoy a drink at the little water hole, or pan as we call it out here. And it's just so hot, they're sort of moving back towards the carcass in relays, taking their time. Now, remember, this is 100% live, and you can ask us questions using the hashtag #SafariLive. Now, the reason I say they might be moving in relays is because it is so warm, and when it is that hot, if a lion's core body temperature raises by just a few degrees, it can threaten their lives. Oh, Brian, look here quickly. Watch this young male next to us. Now, look at this young male. You can see, oh, now he's dropped his eyes now, but wait, just watch. We're just going to watch his eyes for a second. Now, this is a very interesting little behavior. Look there, look how he looks up. You see that? Now, that's something all the big cats do out here. And particularly lions are very, very conscious of it, and I'm going to show you why now. So, in a lot of areas, lions actually scavenge from other predators. Look, he's looking up again, he's looking above us. And there we go, look at that, how he's looking. And there's vultures. Now, we're going to keep an eye on these vultures. They could be dropping down to where a carcass is. So lions, because they do scavenge quite a lot, and keeping an eye out, seeing if those vultures start dropping towards the ground, and then they might even get up and follow. Now, those vultures could be heading towards where these lions have made a kill. Now, isn't that fascinating? You just see how he just picks up that movement in the sky. And as Brian comes out wide, you'll actually see what a small dot that is in the sky that lion spotted. Isn't that absolutely incredible? Now, I'm half convinced they must have a carcass where those vultures are flying towards. And Daniel was wondering, actually, what is the survival rate of young male lions out in the bush? Wow, Daniel, that's an excellent question. And again, it very much depends on where you are in the African bush. In the Sabi Sands, young male lions, up to about a year old only have a survival rate of around 30%, and then in that 3-year sort of period while they try establish themselves as males outside of their natal range, they have a survival rate again of 50%. So it's really tough to be a male lion and get all the way to the top. And one of those things, male lions only spend about 4 or 5 years at the top before they're pushed out. And during those 4 or 5 years, they are absolutely magnificent. Now, it's amazing. Wild lions, and these are 100% wild lions. We're not in a zoo. We are in the middle of the African bush, and we're showing this to you live. And as you can see, they're very habituated with vehicles. They've been seeing open safari vehicles since they were very young cubs, and they don't associate the vehicles with people. And as long as you don't stand up and they don't see the bipedal figure of man, and a car smells like gas and oil and all sorts of things that don't smell too tasty, as long as you drive respectfully and carefully around these animals, you're able to have an incredible view into their lives, and we're able to follow them. Now that lioness has disappeared off into the distance. I'm going to sit with these two boys. I am hoping that they are going to get up and follow, and maybe we're going to follow those vultures, and there could be a buffalo carcass, there could be a zebra carcass. We never know. That's the wonderful thing about being live. Now, someone else who's out there in the African bush tromping around in his size 11s is Stef. Let's go see what he's up to.
Hello and welcome back to the bushwalk. For those of you who were missing me from the first time around, my name is Stef Winterboer, and on camera today we've got Dave. What are we doing walking around in the bush? Well, bushwalks or bush safaris on foot have been basically happening in Africa for as long as time has been happening in Africa, to be honest with you, and make a fantastic addition to the vehicle-based safaris like Brent and Jamie are on. Oops, I just dropped the stick I was going to show you. It also allows us to show you a few of the smaller things out here in the bush, like this. This is the branch of a buffalo thorn tree, and I've got such a fantastic story to tell you. It comes from that tree over there, that broken down tree there in the background. That elephant broke down during the drought. It's a fantastic fodder tree for elephant. But this always every time I pass these trees, it always brings me back to a dear old friend of mine. His name's Richard in Dubai. Him and I worked together many years ago when I was just a junior field guide, almost 20 years ago now, can you believe it? He always told me that this was the tree of life, and it taught us a very important lesson. As you can see, the tree is zigzagged, or the branch at least is zigzagged, especially to the ends, and it has a hooked thorn and it has a straight thorn. Now, what he always used to say was, during the course of your life, you're going to be met with many choices that you need to make, represented by the bends in the branch. And it's always wise to look and learn from the mistakes you made in the past to avoid making the same mistakes in the future. Isn't that a fantastic story? It's also a tree, funnily enough, that is held in a high superstitious regard amongst the local Isitsonga people that used to live in this area. When somebody dies far away from home, they cut a branch from this tree, they travel with the branch, and when they get to the place where the person died, far away from home, they wave the stick over the area where the person died, capturing the spirit of that person. Then they transport the stick back, all the way back to the homestead where that person was born, and they bury this stick in the middle of the cattle kraal, or the family cattle kraal, and that ties the spirit back to the land, and it brings back the spirit of, well, makes it part of the ancestors, but brings back that spirit back to the people. Isn't that an awesome story, hey? All from this little tree. Let's go over to that tree, actually. Come with me. Oopsie. Now that's a bushwalk for you. These branches that jump out of the way, trip old Dave up. Alright, another thing that we can use this tree for is a salad. Now, I know we're going to be sending you over to James in a little bit, but while we do that, I'm going to have a little bit of tea. Good salad, this, very nutritious.
What I have on my shoulders, everybody, is, well, it's half an elephant pelvis. Why do I have it on my shoulders? Not really sure. I just kind of wanted to show you the fact that I have an elephant pelvis with me. There we go. Now, you can see that we are in the African wild. We are live from the African wild, and I'm going to play a little game with you, which you can answer on #SafariLive. This game is called 2 Truths and 1 Lie. I'm going to give you 3 facts, 1 of which is not true, 2 of which are completely true. And then we're going to show you a little clip which will help you to answer the questions. The first fact is, the director of the show is a steamy redhead. The second fact is that the technical director of the show is a Muscovite. Terrifying. The third fact, everybody, is that the final control where all of this happens is a very sophisticated technical hub in the city of London. Now, if you wish to answer these questions, #SafariLive, you can just send which fact you think is rubbish. Fact 1, the director is a steamy redhead. Fact 2, the technical man is a terrifying Muscovite. Fact 3, the final control is in London. So take a look at this clip and you'll see how we all put these things together.
SafariLive operates in the Greater Kruger National Park, South Africa, part of 8.5 million contiguous acres of pristine African wild. Djuma, on the western fringes of this giant reserve, is the beautiful piece of wilderness that we call home. Many of Africa's iconic fauna and flora thrive here. The magnificent animals of Western Kruger have become habituated to humans through 30 years of tracking, viewing and photographing them.
Just a few meters away.
This is not to say that they are tame in any way.
We don't want to be in the wrong spot.
SafariLive is brought to you through an astonishing array of technical and wilderness wizardry.
There's a trunk coming. Oh, look at the nose! Coming to smell him.
The enormously dedicated team of wildlife filmmakers lives and works in the bush, relishing the challenges that come with broadcasting a high-definition signal live from the African wilderness.
There you are, everybody. Now you can tell whether the director is a steamy redhead, the technical man is a terrifying Muscovite, or this is broadcast to you from London via the African wild. Now, before we go back to Jamie and Tingana, the magnificent leopard, I want to show you what might be the cutest little invertebrate I've ever seen. Have a look here. That there, everyone, I'm not actually sure, but if you look very, see, it's digested in the side. Can you see that? Its little intestines moving there. Isn't that astounding? And he's got such a cute little way of moving. Of course, once you pick him up, he'll probably sting you horribly. But so far, he hasn't stung anyone. And I just think he's very, very sweet indeed. So we'll release him back into the wilderness where he can get on with his very happy life out here. Now, let's head straight across back to that huge male leopard with the not quite so huge Jamie Patterson.
I think that James has described that particularly well. Tingana, in terms of his weight, probably weighs close to double what I weigh, so he is absolutely massive. Now, for those of you that have just joined us, my name is Jamie, and this afternoon we are coming to you live from a truly incredible, pristine wilderness area. We are just on the western fringes of a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve, which all falls under the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. So right up in the top northeastern corner of what is voted to be one of the most incredibly beautiful countries in the world. And one of the most incredibly beautiful animals that we have to offer is the amazing male leopard that is just over my right shoulder. I've just realized something. I've been very silly. A little bit earlier, we covered a bit of the background in terms of Tingana, what kind of a leopard he is, the fact that he is a 9-year-old male, and a very, very large one at that. He probably weighs close to, if I had to guess, I would say weighs well over 80, probably close to 90 kilograms, which equates to about 190 maybe even closer to 200 odd pounds. So he's a seriously big male leopard. And when he does stand up, and he will at some point in the next, during the course of our live safari, when he does stand up, we'll have a chance to see just how much his head almost blends into his shoulders. That's how incredibly large his neck is, with a massive flap of skin at the bottom known as a dewlap. And you'll get an idea of just how impressive he truly is. Now, I've noticed over the course of the last few minutes, there we go, that Tingana is actually quite restless. He's lying in the sun, he's flicking his ears, the flies are bugging him. Every now and again his tail lifts up and flicks away at the flies that are biting him and irritating him, yet he hasn't moved. And I've come upon a theory that I think might explain why he's here in this exact spot. Now, I'm not sure whether any of you knew this, and probably some of you did, but certain leopards specialize in hunting certain types of prey. Now, that's not to say that they don't target or focus on other types of prey as well, but they have specific talents. Some are scavengers, very, very good scavengers, and some, much like Tingana, specialize in catching burrowing animals. Now, all leopards are capable of doing that, but have a look here. Now, it's quite difficult to tell because I can't go right up close to this hole, not while he's lying there, but that is a hole in a termite mound, and that is probably home to one of the many burrowing animals that we get out here. If I had to guess, I would say probably a family of warthog, which is essentially like a species of wild pig that we get out here, and they would be out during the day foraging, but of course they return each and every day to the holes that they have in the termite mounds to spend the night. And having a look at the ground here, from what I can tell, it looks as though it's been freshly scuffed and dug at, which means that while somebody might not be home at the moment, somebody has definitely been home in the last few hours. Our Tingana, we have seen him hunt aardvark. We have seen him climb into termite mound burrows in order to pull warthogs out of them, which is actually quite a risky business, even for a leopard as large as Tingana is. So could that be what he's planning on doing? Is he planning an ambush? I've seen him behave in a very, very similar manner before. He knows and he's memorized each and every single active warthog burrow and active aardvark burrow in this area. And I've seen him, when he's particularly hungry, move from one to the other, and then he goes and he sits and he just waits and waits and waits and waits. And sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it does disappear right into a hole on a live safari and come out with a warthog piglet. Is that what he's planning now? I'm starting to think it might be the reason. Perhaps that's why he's chosen this particular spot. The shade is slowly but surely running out. He's lying in the sun. He seems almost reticent to go into that patch of shade that's right next to the open burrow. Could it be that that was where it is? That is what he's after. Now, Kelly, in terms of our one-word tweet a little bit earlier, I asked you about what it was that you loved the most, or how the big cats made you feel, and what it was that was so special about them. Tuli, you say amazing. Well, I couldn't agree with you more. It is absolutely amazing. They really are fantastic creatures. Sorry, Kelly. It was a Kelly who said that they are absolutely amazing. They are amazing. And the amazing thing about them is each and every single one has such a unique amount of characteristics. Each one has a different personality. Tingana, I mentioned earlier, it is a word that means shy, but he is no longer a shy leopard. They are such fantastic creatures. If this perhaps is your first time seeing a leopard in the wild on a live safari, they are the masters of stealth and ambush. That is the way that they hunt. And I wonder if that's what Tingana isn't planning now. Of course, we're on the vehicle, which allows us to get right up close and personal to the animals, but there's more than one way to do that out here in the bush, and I think it's time to have a look at things from a different perspective.
Everyone, Ronald has made a friend. Henry the hippopotamus, have a look. Here he is. He's walking straight up to Ronald, everybody. Oh, Henry, say hello. And look at all the oxpeckers. He's covered in oxpecker dung, is Henry. Right, now let's just turn Ronald slightly. There we go. Now look, Henry's not even vaguely afraid of Ronald. This is excellent. Let's follow slowly behind. Ronald has very clearly made himself known to Henry. And so Henry is not very irritated with him. We're just going to drive very slowly up here. And the intention is not to give Henry a fright, of course. The intention is to make friends with Henry, for Ronald, of course. And there is a lot of water around here, so I'm not really that terrified if Henry does get a fright, because he'll find some other water. Right, now you can see Ronald now, of course, has got it stuck slightly. We're going to move him a bit quickly. There you can see him moving. And we're just going to drive around to where he can get a slightly better access point and view Henry. There we go. Let's try and drive down here. Don't fall over, Ronald. Ooh, there we go. Brave fellow. Look at the rocks on either side. Ooh, there we go. Now, of course, the last time we did this, everybody, Ronald was kicked into the water by a very nasty elephant bull. But Henry is much more friendly than that. Isn't that wonderful? Now, this is just a great way for us to observe the wilderness, and we're hoping over the course of time that Ronald's presence with the animals will slowly become normal in the same way that our vehicles have, and we can then get a completely different view, perhaps of lions at their kills and of the animals drinking, of course. Marvelous, marvelous stuff. Now, it's time for a personal story. I just want to quickly tell you a lion story before we show you something about the lions of this area. When I was a very new guide, I was walking around with a man roughly Stefan's age and, a bit of his vibe, if you like. And he came to me about 2 weeks into my training and he said, we're going to go and walk into lions on foot. And I looked at him as though he was stark raving out of his mind, because who would willfully walk into lions on foot? So off we went, and we were with a very magnificent fellow called Elvis Ngomane. And Elvis Ngomane was unlike me in that he was 6'4" and weighed about 250 pounds. Anyway, I was handed the rifle in order to defend us, which was a particularly stupid idea, as I couldn't shoot straight to save my life. And we went walking through the bush, and Elvis was tracking, and he was going very silently, and he could move like an elephant. An elephant moves completely silently through the bush, and suddenly he went, Djuma, which means stop. And there, from behind a bush, we heard a growl. And even if you've never ever heard that sound before, you know exactly, something deep in the recesses of your genetic memory tells you that that is a lion behind that bush. Then, what happened was we took one step further forward, and I was expecting these things to come herring out of the bush at us. All they did was stand up, look at us, terrified, turn around and run away. And this, of course, is why it's relatively safe for us to be on foot in the wild. Animals are terrified of us. We are the apex predator out here. And although my lunch came almost out of my mouth again, it was a profoundly wonderful experience, especially having done it with the great Elvis Ngomane. Right, let's have a look at some of the lions of this area. 2 amazing prides, 1 coalition of males. Take a look at this clip.
Most cats, as your tabby will tell you, are solitary. The African lion is the exception. In Kruger, a pride consists of 4 or 5 lionesses and their cubs. Their obvious affection is both amusing and heartwarming.
That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Unlike the Lion King would have you believe, male lions are not part of the pride. They live in coalitions. Young males leave the home as adolescents. Brothers and cousins roam the wild like unruly teenagers. But once the territory is secure, males can relax with their prides. While inescapably lazy when it comes to finding their dinner, males have a charming relationship with their cubs. But their time as dominant male lions is limited. Sooner or later, stronger youngsters will invade the territory looking for a pride of their own. This is where things get nasty. The new coalition will kill all cubs under a year old. It's foul to watch, but serves a purpose for the new dominance, because the bereft mothers will come into heat and the new bosses can then further their own bloodlines.
Well, wasn't that incredible having a look at a bit of how the lion's family structure works? And we are lucky enough to spend almost every day with one of the big cats, and we learn something new about that cat, or in this particular case lions, every day. And that is the wonderful thing about being 100% live in the African bush. You literally never know what's going to happen next. It's just so exciting, and I'm one of those very lucky people who gets to do what they absolutely love in life, and that's spend my time with the creatures of Africa. So here we go. Now we're still with these two young males. So as you would have learned, they're about 2 years old, so not quite ready to depart their natal pride or their home pride yet. They're going to depart at about the age of 3, and then they will become nomadic for 2 to 3 years before they're big enough and old enough to challenge for their own pride. And you can see how heavily they're panting. It is 95 degrees Fahrenheit out here, and that is very hot for a lion. They do prefer the cooler times of the day, and luckily enough in the next 45 minutes or so it is going to get a bit cooler, so maybe they might start getting to move. Now this particular pride is made up of 3 young males. We've seen all 3, and there's only 2 lying next to us now. The others moved off, and 2 adult females and 1 young female. Now lion prides do get separated at time to time, and they do generally find each other after a while by contact calling and calling to each other. And now I'm just going to give you an idea of how close we are. Oh, he's standing up. Now there we go. Christy is wondering how close these lions are to us, and Brian's going to come a little bit wider. And oh, there we go, Christy. Sorry, that was my fault. We're just going to hold there. And Christy's wondering, what is it like to be this close to the lions? So there we go. Look, now there's the side of our vehicle. Christy, we are only about 7 foot from these lions, and it is an incredible experience. And look at that, and we get to see these lions in great detail. Now he's got his mouth nice and wide and open now, so if we go in a little closer you can see those massive canines. Now those are what anchor the prey as he catches them. Now you can see how he's salivating because of the heat. Now the other lions got up and moved off towards where the others are, but we're going to stick with this guy because he's right next to us. And you see he's got some scratches on his nose, and most of those scratches will be fighting over food. There we go. He is in still very, very good condition. Big fat belly. He hasn't got too many nicks and scars like a big dominant male lion. And just look how heavily he's panting from the heat. But it's been so windy today, we've actually had a visitor who's just landed in the car, and it's a really pretty beetle. There you go, I hope he doesn't fly away again. And it's called, oh, there he goes, he flew onto me. He's attacking me, Brian. Here we go. I'm not going to move him so you can get to see. He's not dangerous, but he's very pretty, emerald green. Oh, he's going on my face now. He's called an elegant longhorn. There we go. This is quite funny. There we go. You can see emerald green with orange and black on the antenna. Oh dear, okay, you don't want to get in there, my microphone's in the hat, so this is going to be a bit interesting trying to remove him without hurting him, because we don't, oh there we go, he fell off fortunately. We don't like hurting animals out here. We love even the creepies and crawlies. So there he is. I'm going to hope he flies off safely. And it's amazing, that's why I say it's live, and you never know what's going to land on you while you're out here. And remember, hashtag Safari Live if you've got questions about the lions or longhorn beetles, and we'll do our best to try answer them. Oh, there we go. Looks like he's about to take off. He opened his wings. Oh, he's just stretching. So, oh, there we go. Shame. Little guy. He probably didn't see us while he's flying into us. Now, the last lion is still next to us. The others are moving off. We're going to stick with the last one, and we're going to follow them as they get going. Now, Luciana in Washington, wonderful to have you with us on this live safari, Luciana. Now, Luciana is wondering are all male lions part of the pride, or they're by themselves? Now, again, it's always dependent on where you are, Luciana. Now, the fascinating things about lions, in particular lions in this area, is that the lions here generally form male lion coalitions. So these three young males, when they get kicked out of this area, what will probably happen is that, as I said, they become nomadic. Now, quite often in this particular area, because we've got such a high density of lions, they'll meet up with some other young males and form a coalition. Now, if there's 5 of them or 4 of them, they've got a much better chance of taking over a pride of lions at a younger age. So strength in numbers. And then they will continue generally after they've formed a coalition to stay as a coalition till they are quite old and get booted out by the next coalition. Now, single male lions in this area are generally males that are unable to find a coalition when they become independent of their natal pride. Now, they have got a fascinating way of passing on their genetics. Obviously, as a single male, to attack a group of 4 or 5 males would be absolute suicide. So what they do is they sneak around the peripheries, and they can be very successful in spreading their genetics. They'll mate with lionesses without the main pride males knowing, and in certain parts of Africa, the science has proved that up to 50% of all the cubs born to the pride are from sneaky males who've come in, mated, and then avoided the big boys. And it all depends where you are in Africa, and there's no rock steadfast rule when it comes to these creatures, and they can prove you wrong every day. And that's one of the wonderful things about doing what we do, being able to witness all these incredible interactions. Now, we've got a question from Jeff Daniels in Washington, D.C. from the Nat.Geo offices, and he'd like to know, what's the craziest thing I've ever seen with lions? Now, Jeff, it's a bit of a story, but you asked for it, so you're going to have to get it. It's a bit of an animated story as well. Now, I've worked in the African bush for most of my adult life, apart from one bad year where I decided to try work in the city. It didn't work out well. But it was probably about 13 years ago, and I was working inside the Kruger National Park in a private concession, and there was a very famous pride of lions there called the Mountain Pride, or the Mega Pride. Now, there were about 37 to 40 lions in that pride, and I was with my tracker, Glass Maramani, a Shangaan gentleman who we've walked and followed lions through the bush to try to take our guests to the best safari experience. What happened was we went through a little dry riverbed, and we popped up, and as we do probably 4 or 5 times a week, we see a lion. Lion. Now, there'd just been a massive fight between the males, and they were really, really hungry. There's 2 very special rules when it comes to walking big cats on foot. Noisy lion, safe lion. Dangerous lion is a quiet lion. So if a lion's growling and snarling, he's just telling you too close or go away. If he's coming quietly, he's intent. And these lions came from about 60 meters, so 110 yards or so. Now, take into fact, a lion runs 22 meters per second at full speed. So it does that in 3 seconds. My tracker starts shouting at me, shoot the lions, shoot the lions. And I shout, no, I don't want to shoot any lions. I was like, throw rocks at them, throw rocks at them. So we literally stood there for about 20 minutes while the lions growled at us and whatnot, and we walked back to our vehicle, and I was completely calm till I had to put my rifle down, and then I just started shaking, and my tracker couldn't even climb into the car. But the last lion's on the move, so let's go follow him. Now, it looks like he's going to go for a drink, so I'm going to get around to the other side of him. While we do that, Jamie's got a feathered friend to show you.
A feathered friend that has arrived at our leopard sighting, and what a thoroughly entertaining bird this is. This is a male yellow-billed hornbill, and he is trotting about trying to collect and catch insects that he's going to take back home to the female that he has in his nest. Unfortunately for us, he has just moved behind the vehicle. That is the joy of live wildlife filming, is that our subjects and our main characters go where they want, when they want, and and when they please, and you never know exactly where they're going to go and when they're going to do it. Tingana, for example, well, he's slightly more predictable, isn't he? He hasn't moved off at all in the last few seconds. He did roll over, and there was some desultory paw licking happening. So when a big cat, often when a big cat starts to lick their paws, there's a chance that they're going to get up, especially if that is accompanied by yawns. But Tingana's not showing any signs of that. In fact, he hasn't moved anymore, and is simply just rolling over to find cooler patches of ground as the day heats up. What are you planning next, Tingana? What are your plans for the rest of the day? Much like our hornbill, it's completely impossible for us to predict exactly what it is he's going to do and when he's going to do it. But stay tuned after the break, because that's the joy of these live safaris. You just never know. And for those of you watching on the internet, you don't have to miss a moment of the action. Just by the way, in terms of this Tingana sighting, while we are with most of our regular viewers, we just have to say a very big thank you to Taylor for finding Tingana. She was out for many, many hours in the sun, and I'm very glad that she did manage to find him for us. So a big thank you to Taylor. Hopefully she is watching and she had a chance to hear that. I was going to show you more of that hornbill, but unfortunately he has just flown off. Flown off? That's not a word. He has just flown off. And in that case, I think it's time for you to go across to Brent, whose lions are thirsty once again.
Look at that, with this oppressive heat, this young male lion has now made his way towards the muddy waterhole close by, and he's quenching his thirst. He looks quite comfortable doing it as well. You'd probably find the edge of the water where there's a bit of mud there, it's a little bit cooler than the surrounding sand, and the winds are still blowing very strongly. Look at those eyes. I hope you guys are getting some fantastic screenshots of this Tsalala young male as he schlurps away. Oh, I really wonder where the tailless lioness is. He's such a beautiful little boy. He keeps looking down to the south. There were some warthogs around there a bit earlier. He's heading back towards, oh, that lioness seems to have come back. Let's get a bit closer. Now, it's always a treat to see the Tsalala Pride. We don't get to see them nearly as often as I would like, especially since it is one of the prides of lions outside of the Nkuhumas I've spent an inordinate amount of time with. Now, I hope you guys are ready. I'm going to try and get you quite an impressive sky behind this male lion. Wow, look at that. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Now, the temperature has dropped slightly, so they've moved out of that big shade, and the main reason for this, you can see they've moved right onto the airstrip. Fortunately, there are no flights about to come, but this particular pride actually used to spend a lot of time around airstrips. Now, the reason is you've got a nice clear area like this, and potential prey species. Look at that, they're snorting. The impala are snorting. They've spotted the lions. Now, all the animals out here will snort when they see a predator. And in impala language, they're going, lion, lion, be careful, be careful. Oh, there we go. Unfortunately for these lions, they were spotted. But as I said, they look like they've got wonderful big bellies, and so they're not too perturbed about hunting just yet. Now, that could change if the opportunity arises. Now, they are opportunists. So if an animal happened to wander into them, they definitely would try hunt it. I don't know. It's unfortunate this wind is so strong, but it's just that those impala are making a... Now that's the noise. A little bit to the right. Oh, there we go. There's some ones walking close. There we go. Now often, there we go. Look at that. You can see those two males have spotted the lions, and they're now telling all the other animals to be careful. There are lions around. Now see that male on the far left, how alert he is. Look at that very alert stance. There we go. You can just see that head lift. It's so far away. I see his head lift and the sound only gets to me a second later. Isn't this incredible? This is 100% live. Now, lions don't have the best success rate when it comes to hunting. They only have about 10 to 15% success rate. And that's the way it is. If they had 100% success rate, there'd be no impala left. There'd be no buffalo left. Now, speaking of buffalo, I think Stef's found one that's retired.
Careful, you bending. All right, now we have been marching to get to where we are right now. We're very, very close to one of the very rare watering points that is in the bush over here, a very large dam in this particular area that's frequented at all times by animals. We don't quite know what we're going to expect when we get there, but I hope it's going to be something exciting. But have a look at this chair that I found for myself. That is the skull, unfortunately, of a buffalo that passed away. It looks like he was killed by some lions, but you never really can tell with these things. We've been in the grips of quite a harsh drought over the last couple of months. It's been the driest year in the last 110 years in the Kruger National Park. It's quite something, hey? So we don't quite know what killed this buffalo. We presume that it was we presume it was a lion, but it could have been the drought. Big old buffalo like this really battle when it gets so dry. They eat a lot of grass every day, and they need a high quality of grass. And when they can't get that grass, even though they can fill their bellies with all the vegetation they can find, and there's access to water, they'll still unfortunately succumb. And buffalo are one of those animals that die off first. But just have a look at this scene. The bush is literally just strewn about with the leftover bones. Not at all taken away by hyena or other lion. What will happen over the course of the next few years, of course, is the fact that these bones will gradually get scattered into the bush. Hyena, jackal, lion and leopard will quite often pick up bones and carry them from one place to another. I've seen them doing that mainly just to chew on them. Hyena babies quite often get given bones by their adults to chew on, to develop those massively overdeveloped chewing muscles and jaw muscles that they need. Right, now for those of you who are just joining the show, my name is Stefan Winterboer and we are on foot in the middle of the Kruger National Park. And what we're doing is we're trying to show you something different, a different perspective from what you'd likely to be seeing on the two vehicles that Brent and Jamie are in any case. But we are going to head off to this dam. I'm hoping that by the time we get there, there'll be something there to show you. In the meantime, why don't we go and see what one of the others are up to?
Now, one of the consequences of the drought, of course, has been a great deal of death for the buffalo, mostly at the hands of the lions. And What I thought I'd try and show you is the relative sizes of the various animals out here, because of course on screen it's quite difficult to tell what's big, what's small, and what's large and what's little. Now, let me sit up like that, because unfortunately my aging neck can't stay at that angle. What we have here is an enormous buffalo bull, rather like the one that you saw. That one was killed by lions. You can see that it had its nose bitten off, and that's almost indicative always of lions having killed it, having crushed the nose. Then what I wanted to show you here, you've been watching Tingana for most of the day, of course, and I wanted to show you an array of things that a leopard might eat. Now, a leopard has what we term a Catholic diet, which means it basically will eat anything it can catch. He's sitting, hopefully, as Jamie said, above the burrow of a warthog. Now, this is a big male warthog here. You can see it next to my hand. It's about, just over a foot long, and a big male warthog can weigh 220 pounds. So it's probably a female if he's going to go after a female. This is a little bit large for a leopard. You can see you'd be taking a huge risk by having a go at a leopard. But leopards eat just about anything. They eat things like this. This is a sort of mongoose-like animal called a genet. This is a slightly larger mongoose-like animal called a civet, which you may or may not see. This, many of you would be familiar with. It's a jackal, and in fact is about the size of a sort of coyote, so you can see that one there. I'm just going to keep my hand next to them so you can see the relative sizes. Then, of course, one of their favorite delicacies, but very difficult to catch, and you may see some resemblance here. Do you see it, Jandre? Jandre says that I look exactly like this vervet monkey over here. I'm just a little bit larger. They like these monkeys, but normally in more rocky areas where there aren't these other delicious things to eat. Then they like to eat these very tiny little antelope, about 20 pounds, called steenbok. That's what that one is there. Obviously, he's lost most of the rest of his face, and that's probably to a leopard. And then they like to eat these things called grey duiker, about 40 pounds or so. And then the impala. Now, the impala are about to give birth. Obviously not the ones with the horns, only the ones without the horns. But many of them, of course, have struggled through this difficult time. It's been extremely dry. So just have a look at how the landscape has changed from the incredible dryness to the verdant green that you see before you now. Have a look at this clip.
Last summer was the hottest and driest in 110 years. It's been increasingly difficult for water-dependent species.
This poor hippo desperately pushing himself into the situation for many of the aquatic animals as they struggled for survival in these dry times.
Less than a third of the average rainfall fell, making it difficult for the hunted and the hunters. Conflict over nature's most precious resource became intense. While forage in the woodland wilted, the animals struggled to find sustenance. The African sun baked the land. The scavengers, however, took full advantage. Until the next life-giving drops fall from the bleached sky, the air will remain choked with dust as the herds search for water and nourishment.
Isn't that the most amazing thing, seeing how something that we all take for granted, like water, can be such a source of contention for the animals living over here. It's such a precious resource. We've got to that dam that we were wanting to get to, and there's a herd of buffalo, Cape buffalo, that are about to come down and drink. A few members at the front of the herd have already come into the water. The rest are streaming out the back of the bush, coming down the bank quite carefully. Now, buffalo are part of the big five precisely because they're one of the 5 most dangerous animals to approach on foot. And I must be honest with you, It gives me a sense of excitement, a sense of anxiety. To be of animals, you're looking at about 1,500 pounds per animal. And those sharp, big horns are capable of disemboweling a lion very easily. So when you're with animals like this on foot, the most important thing to take into consideration is wind direction. You don't want our scent blowing onto the buffalo. Another thing, what we don't want to do is let these buffalo actually know that we are here. Part of the magic about being on foot, for me at least anyway, is being able to observe wildlife on foot, close, without them knowing that we are there. And so far, these buffalo completely oblivious to us standing right here. Now the wind has died down. They can actually, I think, hear me talking. And you can see that stillness. Now I'm just going to drop my voice level a little bit. What we don't want to do is spook these buffalo. There we go. Back to normal again. It's not uncommon to hear stories about guides like myself being chased into the top of trees because buffalo were surprised doing something. We got that one buffalo looking at us. Now, although buffalo look very similar to domestic cattle in a way, you can look at it in this way. Buffalo are probably about as close to a domestic cow as what a timber wolf would be to a German shepherd or to a domestic dog. Highly, highly social animals. Now, another highly social animal is those lions that Brent is with. And while we back away slowly over here, so we don't spook these buffalo, why don't you go over and see what they're up to?
Well, here comes the third of the young males who we haven't seen yet. He's meandering back from his quarry bush excursions. You can hear the lapwings are not too happy about it. Arathusa airstrip. We've seen them around here quite a few times over the last couple of months. Oh, listen to that lapwing, very upset with the lions. Oh, is he going to dive bomb the lion? That would be fun. They might have a nest close here. Really not chuffed with the lions. Look at that, isn't that incredible? Oh, it is getting cooler. The boys are going to start playing now. Naughty teenagers with their punk hairdos. Listen to that, isn't that awesome? Oh, and back to snoozing. Look at that. Isn't that wonderful? And the boys reunited. And the boys are reunited. I just need to chat on the game drive channel quickly. Standing by. Oh, look at that. Full of fun. As firm. Oh, so nice to see the three brothers reunited. Now, I wonder... Oh, there's one lioness still lying behind us. I just wonder where the other tailless lioness is. I can hear the lapwings calling away. Not too happy to share their area with the big cats, but while we sit here with the Tsalala Pride, I'm hoping they're going to get moving soon. Let's go back to Jamie and Tingana.
Well, Brent and myself both playing the patience game with our respective cats, and Tingana giving another massive yawn and showing off those 2-inch long canines. And we've spoken before about how that can often be a precedent or a precursor to the animals getting up and moving. The good news is that he does seem to be, for the most part, looking... Oh. All right. Not so much for that idea. I was about to say he does seem to be looking to the west of, to the east of us rather than to the west of us, which is good news. If he does decide to get up and move off in a direction, hopefully he decides to move more towards Djuma than further on to Simbambili. I'm just going to patiently sit and wait and see exactly what it is he does. I think he did spot something that I couldn't see somewhere off on Djuma. It could be Impala, it could have been anything moving about in there. Also, this afternoon is so windy that there's a very, very good chance that he might just have been listening to a rustle of a tree or something similar, and that perhaps attracted his attention. For whatever it was, though, it obviously wasn't worth giving off what I can only guess must be the most comfortable spot in the world. Is my assumption at this point. That seems to be the spot to be this afternoon. And so far, all he's done is roll over every now and again, and he's settled back down once again to snooze. What have you got planned this evening, Tingana? Oh, just bear with me 1 second. All the vehicles are coming past. I'm just going to say hello to them all. Remember... we have got good news, although I don't think it's going to help us any. We've been given permission to scoot forward an extra meter. I don't think it's going to help us, VM, is it? We can try. I don't know. I think it's going to pop in behind that mound. Oh, goodness. We don't really have anywhere to go. Oh, I forgot about the tree. Yeah, I think it was better. Where were we now? A little bit forward. Oh no, now I have to battle the tree as well. It's attacking me. There. Okay. Stop smacking me in the face. Stay. Stay. The attack of the red bush willow. There we go. Oh, now we're rolling back slightly. Let's see how that is. Sort of. It's not the clearest position we've ever had of Tingana, but it'll definitely do if he does lift up his head. I was just thinking back to the last time we did some of the rehearsals that we did. We were sitting with Tingana at Red Dam on a day very, very similar to a day like today, where the temperatures were probably about the equivalent. It was about the same time as TV. Oh, sorry, about the same time as we are doing now. And he started to soar completely out of the blue. And I'm hoping perhaps he does decide to treat us to that particular experience in a moment. What do you think, Tingana? Please? It would be very nice. I don't think he's planning on moving too much just yet. You can see the flies are bothering him. They've been settling around and biting his ear the whole day. It's that time of year again. Luckily, haven't been too bad with them and myself. Haven't been bothering us too much. And welcome back on what has proved to be an incredible live safari adventure, coming to you from the heart of the African bush. Now, if you have just jumped on board with us, my name is Jamie, and already today we have seen lions, we have seen a Tingana, the male leopard that we've just seen earlier. We've seen all kinds of things in terms of James explaining the way everything interacts in the tent, and of course the incredible Stef with his eye for the small things on walk. At the moment, we are playing the patience game live from the western fringes of a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. As we say, everything that you're seeing now is 100% live, and it's also interactive. So if you have any questions that you are seeing, perhaps you'd like to know, for example, just off the top of you can send that through to #SafariLive on Twitter. And in fact, I'm going to be answering that question in a moment, because I thought we could talk a little bit more in general. Now that we've talked a lot about the background of Tingana, we can talk a little bit more in general about what amazing creatures leopards truly are. So unlike the lions with Brent, and you saw that that clip that showed you a little bit more about the background to these incredible animals and the social structure and the family structure of the lions, the leopards are a complete opposite to that. They are almost totally solitary throughout their lives. As soon as they reach adulthood, they are completely solitary. Their only real interaction with other leopards is occasionally when they are coming together to mate, male and female, or if it is a female with cubs, or in very, very rare cases, where a male joins up with a female to share food with her, and occasionally with her small cubs as well, but only in a situation where he is the dominant male leopard of that area and where he suspects that the cubs are his. So leopards are a complete contrast to the social hunters that are the lion prides that we have in this area, and as a result they've had to adopt very different approaches to their way of life. First of all, they're much, much smaller than those lions that you're seeing. Even a massive male like Tingana is a good 50 to 60 kilograms, so close to over, I would say about 130, 140 odd pounds lighter than even the smallest adult lioness. There is a vast difference in that sense. And a lovely question coming through from Tracy in Tennessee. Tracy, thank you so much for sending through your question. Actually, there's quite a few questions on this particular subject that we've had in the past. You wanted to know if the big cats have a catnip or the equivalent in this area, something that affects them in the same way that catnip might domestic cats. And Tracy, the truth is not that we know of. There's no plant that works in exactly the same way as catnip. However, I have heard, I've never seen it myself, but I have heard that the big cats are affected by catnip in the same way certain domestic cats are. So of course only a percentage of domestic cats actually respond to catnip. Now I don't know whether it's the same thing with the big cats, but I have heard that scientists and biologists in the past have tested the effect that catnip has on them, and it seems to produce that same crazy, quirky behavior that it does in our domestic cats. Wouldn't that be absolutely fascinating to see? However, we do occasionally see these cats do the craziest things, whether they're in a playful mood or something just seems to come over them, and they do very, very unexpected things. Now, Tingana, he's not quite in his dotage. I think that would be that would be an over-exaggeration. He's a male in his prime, and he's a little bit past that. He's reached the adult years of his life and is slightly more toned down in terms of his crazy behavior. However, a young male leopard is something completely unpredictable. They do the craziest things, and they're still exploring, getting to know their world. Sometimes they even smack buffalo. Absolutely fascinating. Of course, it's not just about the big cats out here. There is so much more to show you, and it seems as though James, with his tent in the middle of the African bush, has had some visitors.
They're not quite visitors, everybody, but as the sun is setting and producing what is a magnificent African evening. There are some zebra grazing across the clearings there. There's some impala and nyala, which I don't think you've met just yet. Anyway, a big warm welcome to Courtney, who's sitting in a place called the Fishbowl in Washington, D.C. Welcome, Courtney. I don't know what you're doing in a fishbowl. I hope that it's a warm fishbowl wherever it is, and that you are surrounded by other fish that you like. Good. Now, we're just about to go back to Stef. Now, Stef, of course, is the ultimate survivalist out here. But, of course, before Stef came along with his sophisticated backpack and bits and pieces, there were lots and lots of people living in this area. In fact, this place has probably been continuously inhabited for the last 1,000 years. And before that, we don't know how many of our ancient human ancestors were in the area. And they made tools like this. This is a hand axe of some sort. And you can see here that it's been very finely crafted into a bladed point. And that would have been used to chop meat off bones, I suspect, maybe even to crush bones to get the marrow out. That's a particularly rich piece of food to eat. Now, I must warn you, we're going to hand you over to Stef now. He is sitting with a sighting that can only be described as disgusting to the highest order. But it's important from the point of view of the drought that we've been having, and it's important from the point of view of scavengers out here, and it's very, very interesting just from a biological point of view. Hold your noses like this. Don't breathe in. We're going to hand you over to Stef and the carcass of a very large bovid.
You know, today has been a very unusual set of circumstances. For those of you just joining us now, literally 20 minutes ago, we were trying to approach a dam and found a carcass of a buffalo, but an old carcass of a buffalo. We then got to the dam and we were with some live buffalo at the dam, and just on the other side of the dam, we've managed to bump into this. Not going anywhere, but have a look at this giant carcass. This is the carcass of an adult Cape buffalo. Just look at how big this is. This animal succumbed to the drought not too long ago. I would judge from the freshness of this particular carcass that it's no more than 10 days old, probably less than that. I would give it between 5 and about 7 days maybe. Less than 10 days, absolutely. And what's striking about this particular carcass is the fact that large predators haven't even opened it. Literally, it has gone untouched. And the reason for that is because this buffalo died in a drought. We've just come out of one of the worst droughts in the last 110 years. And just simply, the predators in this area, including the vultures and the other scavengers, were overwhelmed by the amount of animals that died during this drought. And this was literally left up to flies. And luckily for us, there are flies around, because carcasses like this are the breeding ground for a bunch of different pathogens. And if it wasn't for flies and beetles making the most of the meat and the rest of the carcass over here, it would be so difficult not to poison the bush. And that is exactly what they're doing. It's going to get a little bit hardcore here, but come and have a look down here. This is the fly larvae right down here. Those are the maggots. They've been busy for the last couple of days, and they will finish off this buffalo, it looks like, in the next couple of days. Vitally important little creatures. Ooh, I'll tell you, this carcass is super smelly. It's giving me some tears in my eyes. We've collected some of these. I didn't really want to use it, but I think right now I'm going to have to. This is Leopard javanica, and is an incredibly aromatic plant. And while we literally look at the rest of this carcass, I'm just going to have to clean my senses a bit. Oh, it is overwhelming. All right, I think in that note, we're going to send you over to something that is a little bit better looking than this dead buffalo, and that would be those lions that Brent is with.
Well, they're definitely better looking, but probably not too much better smelling, since most lions wouldn't have a problem feeding off the most rotten of buffaloes if they came across it. Now, I just keep, oh, look at this rolling over. And they haven't been too active apart from that little bit of game that they had earlier. But there's a lioness who's lying a little bit further away. We're going to make our way towards her now. She seems to be very interested in something directly to the west of us. So let's go. While the boys are sleeping, there's also something very special I want to show you while we go towards that lioness. Remember, this is 100% live, so we can't script it. What's out here is out here. Now, unfortunately, no buffalo or zebra or impala have wandered in just yet, but there's one thing in Africa, and it's at this time of the day, we call it magic hour, and you can't really beat it, in my opinion, anywhere in the world. And the light gets soft and special things start to happen. And as we've been talking about the drought, we've had such a massive drought. Look at that. Now, I know you call Montana big sky country, but I think us Africans out here, we've got some big sky country of our own. Now, those clouds moving in, hopefully they'll bring more rain that could help with this drought. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? We were watching the sunset live in Africa. Now, I'm going to quickly go towards that lioness who looks like she's interested in something. While we do that, Commander Bond, or James Henry in the tent, has got something to show you.
The only thing I have to show you, everybody, is my shame at the fact that none of you got my 2 truths and 1 lie incorrect. You all got it correct. Of course, this show is not directed and produced from London. It is produced from just over there, right in the middle here of the western fringes of the great Kruger National Park. Thank you for joining us in the tent this afternoon. It's been great fun indeed. I'm going to give you a quick look at the setting sun just to prove that we are indeed out here in the African wild. And then we're going to hand you back to that great prince of cats, Tingana, and his best friend, Jamie Patterson.
Tingana is up and about, and what a fantastic way to finish off our live safari. It's almost as though he knew that our time with him was limited and that it was time to start getting up and moving about. And there you go. You can see what I was talking about earlier, that massive head and shoulders with that incredibly thick and powerful neck. What a magnificent and a beautiful specimen he truly is. A magnificent male leopard in his prime. And he is slowly but surely moving out into his evening. I wonder where he's going and what his plans are. Well, there we go. We've got the answer to what his immediate plans are. He's absolutely wonderful. It's just such a privilege to be able to spend time as we do with these animals. Thanks, Tingana. Much appreciated. Yes, boy. If you ever needed proof that this was 100% live and unedited, this may, well, in fact, be your proof. I can't transport you onto the back of our vehicle. But I can simply tell you that it is somewhat pungent from where we're sitting. Off he goes. A slight limp, but that is normal for a dominant male leopard in this area. As he slowly but surely waltzes off into the distance. We're going to try get one last view of him before the end of your amazing live safari experience. Oh, Tingana, my goodness gracious me. Whew. Quick. We're running out of time, and we've just got a few more seconds to finish it off. Oh, brilliant. Look at this. This is going to be absolutely magnificent. There we go. Tingana slowly but surely moving off into the vegetation and on to Djuma itself. We are so incredibly privileged to be able to spend time. Look, he's going to scent mark. He might even roar. We are so incredibly privileged to spend time with these magnificent cats in the wild, going about their day-to-day business as they have for many, many moments. So this is the last few moments. A very big goodbye and thank you for joining us all. Big thank you to VM. Let's spend the last few moments watching the leopard disappear, because he is going to vanish in just a few moments. These are the last few moments we have to spend with him before he vanishes and goes into the night. And a big thank you to all of you for joining us. I hope you have enjoyed what is a completely unique way of viewing wildlife. Totally wild and 100% unedited. And what a spectacular afternoon it has been, from lions with Brent to Stef on all of his small things on foot, James and his humour, and the magnificent Tingana. Goodbye everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're enjoying this incredible view.